Hi everyone, Mike again with MEG Motors. Today we're going to be looking at this Echo SRM-210 line trimmer. These are really good line trimmers. I really like them. They're a little bit older model, but they seem to last forever. So they're really good trimmers. I really like them. Straight shaft. This one has a fixed line head on it instead of bump feed. Some people like fixed line, some people don't. I do like fixed line. You can put really heavy line on a fixed line head and it lasts a long time. So I like fixed line. We don't know a ton about this one other than the fact it doesn't run. I've looked it over. The primer bulb is disintegrated and the throttle cable is broken and it's missing the fuel cap. So it's going to need some parts for sure, but before we spend any money on it, we want to make sure that it's at least going to run. So we're going to do our standard start on spray test. We know we need three things to make this run. We need compression, we need spark, and the spark has to occur at the right time, and we need fuel. And so we can test a lot of that with a start on spray test. So we're going to open the air filter, we'll spray some carburetor cleaner into the opening in the carburetor, and we'll pull it through a few times, and if everything's in place other than the fuel system, it should at least attempt to start. If it doesn't start, then we got to look deeper for ignition troubles or compression troubles. I can tell just from pulling it that it feels like it's got plenty of compression. So the only real question at this point is the ignition system. So let's do that. Let's run our start on spray test. I'm going to hold the throttle wide open and the choke wide open, and I'm going to spray a little carburetor cleaner into the opening, and then we're going to pull it through. Let's see what happens. All right, so we got a little bit of a start, which is a good sign. I'm actually hearing some noise in there though. It kind of has me a little bit concerned. I'm going to try that start on spray test one more time. It's not starting quite as good as I had hoped it would. And I'm hearing a little bit of noise out of it. I don't know if it's anything serious. Could be clutch issues. Could be something else going on in there. I'm not sure. But I think we're going to have to fix the fuel system and get it to run at least so we can hear it and see if we got bigger problems. So let's do that. Let's pull the carburetor off of this. We'll put a primer bulb on it and see what else it might need, and then we'll evaluate it after we get it running to see if it's still good. I hope it is. All right, so I've had a little change of heart on this one. I think before I do too much more work, I'm going to do some disassembly on this and see what's going on. I'm going to pull the shaft out, and I'm going to pull the starter off. I think with the starter off, we can actually see inside the engine, see the crankshaft. And so we're going to look in there and see if there's anything that might be making noise in there. We already know that we're going to have to put a bunch of work into the fuel system, and so I just want to do a little checking before we put the time and effort into that. So we're going to take a couple screws loose here. That should loosen up our shaft. And then we have to get our throttle cable disconnected. And so on this one, the throttle cable just fits into that brass fitting right there. And if we open the throttle, we can just lift it right out, and then the throttle cable will pull out of there. This is where the throttle cable is broken. It should have a threaded piece that goes into this fitting, but that threaded piece is broken off. So we're going to disconnect our coil wire. Let's see, we've got a couple. We're going to disconnect our ground wire right here. And we're going to go ahead and take this main cover off. All right, so that gets that cover off. And let's see if as our shaft comes out. Our fuel lines are hard as a rock, so So we know we're going to have fuel system work, and the grommet's actually coming out of the tank. So I'm going to take this piece loose, take the starter off, which will also take the gas tank off. Well, unfortunately, I was hoping that taking the starter off would give us a peek inside the engine, but it doesn't. So we can't really tell anything. Just feeling the engine, I don't feel anything that feels bad, or I can't hear anything making noise. A lot of times if there's like play in the connecting rod, you can hear it when you walk the engine back and forth. And I'm not hearing anything in there, so I'm hoping that we're probably okay. I'm going to put the starter back on, and we'll try our start on spray test without the shaft connected, see if maybe the noise was coming out of the shaft itself. So let's do that. All right, let's reset and we'll do a start on spray test. All right, so I attempted a start on spray test with the engine taken this far apart, and it's just too difficult. It's too difficult to hold it in place while I try to crank it. I got it to pop off a couple of times, but I wanted to make sure I could do it before I tried to film it, and it didn't really work out. I can tell just cranking the engine through it sounds better. So I'm suspecting that the noise I'm hearing may have been coming from the shaft. So I think our next plan of action, our next best course of action, is to go ahead and fix the fuel system, and then we'll get it running and we'll evaluate it then to see if there really are any issues with it. So let's get started on that and see where we are when we get done. All right, so I've elected to go a different route on this trimmer repair. If you've seen my other videos, you know that in most cases I'll rebuild the original carburetor, which is my preferred approach, as opposed to replacing it with a Chinese knockoff carburetor. I believe the original carburetors, be they Zama, Walbro, or even the Zing, whatever that other third version is, I believe those are better carburetors, and I'd rather rebuild the original. But in the case of this trimmer, for instance, it needed several other parts. It needed this adapter. It's broken on this one. It needed an air filter, and it needed this fuel line assembly. These trimmers have this grommet that goes into the tank rather than the fuel lines that go through individual holes in the tank. And so this is the better way to replace the fuel lines on these. And so the cost of all of the parts that it needed individually would have exceeded the cost of this whole kit. This whole kit on Amazon was $16, which is just crazy. I don't know how they can sell those for $16. And I've had relatively good success with these kits. Sometimes the carburetors don't always work as well as I would like them to do, and take a little tuning and adjustment to get them right, but I've had reasonably good luck with it, so I'm not terribly concerned about putting these parts on this trimmer. And so yeah, that's the way we're going to go. We're just, instead of rebuilding this carburetor, we're just going to swap the carburetor, put in a new spark plug, new air filter, new fuel lines, and we'll see if we can get this one to run. So let's get started on that. All right, so let's get started. We're going to pull the carburetor first. Just a couple of screws and it should come right off. And then we'll just pull the fuel lines right out of there. And so these rubber grommets that go in the tank, they can get hard or distorted, like this one's distorted and ripped. And so in some cases we can put new fuel lines in these grommets and not have to buy this fuel line kit, but in this case this one's too far gone. So yeah. I'm just going to clean things up a little bit. I'm going to put just a little rubber lubricant on this grommet, and then we're going to work it into the fuel tank. All right, so that fought us just a little bit, but it's down inside where it needs to be now. Let's see, we got a new gasket. We might as well use it. Let me get a gasket scraper. Let's see, so all right, we're going to replace the spark plug. All right, and then we need to connect our fuel lines. So what I'm going to do, we have two fittings here. I'm going to put my fingers over and I'm going to push the bulb, and one of them I should be able to either feel or detect pressure when I take my finger off of the fitting. Yeah, so this one here, when I push the bulb, it has pressure, and so that's going to be the return line, and that's this green line. So that line's going to go on here. And the other line is the black line, and it's going to go on the other fitting. That line's actually just a little bit long. All right, so with all that done, we can put our air filter back on. Nice new air filter. Our old one, you can see our old one was very dirty. I'm going to take just a minute and clean this up. It's pretty dirty. All right, so with the air filter cover cleaned up, we're going to slip that on, tighten it down. All right, last thing we need to do, actually not the last thing we need to do, but next thing we need to do is put this rear cover on. And actually I'm gonna go clean that up too. All right, with the cover all cleaned up, let's see if we can get it to go back on. I've got a couple screws to put in. I'm going to use Loctite on those. All right, so we need to put the shaft on and then we'll be ready for a test start. So let me reset and clean up a little bit and we'll get that part done. All right, so let's work on getting this shaft back in the power head. It's got a black line right here, and so we need to make sure that this goes in up to that black line. Sometimes they go in easy, sometimes not so easy. Like right there, it's kind of stopped. Have to get the, there's a shaft inside, a flex shaft with a square head on it. And we have to get it to line up with the clutch. Sometimes, there it goes. All right, so once we're in up to the line, we can tighten these screws down. We need to get our throttle cable connected. Now let me reset the camera to show you the rest of this. All right, so we need to get our throttle cable on, and so it's just gonna slide in through this opening, and then we need to get it to go down into the slot in this piece. And this piece that has openings on both sides, of course, one of them will be larger than the other side, and this lead fitting has to fit into the larger side, so you have to make sure that that's turned the right way. And then we just spin it like this, and once we get the cable in the slot, we can pull the trigger and it will usually snap right into place. If this is spun the wrong direction, that lead fitting on the end won't slide into the piece, and then the throttle won't work right. So you have to make sure that's turned the right way. All right, and then on this side we got a couple wires to hook up. This is for the kill switch. This one goes here. And I got one more screw, little Loctite. And this one goes right here to provide the ground for the kill switch. All right, I think we are ready to put some fuel in this and give it a test. Let's see if we can get it to run. All right, let's see if we got this one fixed. I have the choke on. I pumped the primer bulb and it pumped fuel. The switch is on. Gonna hold the throttle and pull it through. Let's see what happens. Got a little bit of a start. Go to half choke. so that sounds pretty good. Started fairly easily, needed just a little bit of carburetor adjustment, but starts easy now, runs good. So I think we can call this one fixed. So again, for the cost of $16 for this kit, we got a new carburetor, new primer bulb, of course, new fuel lines, new air filter, new spark plug, and we got the adapter that was broken that we needed as well. So yeah, for $16 we fixed this trimmer that it cost, you know, $150 or $200 to replace. So it wasn't that difficult to do, and I hope that encourages you to get out maybe and try to fix your own. Yeah, it could save you the expense of having to buy a new one, right? So I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Check my playlist. There's other videos out there about small engine repair. And stay tuned. We'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.